This is the second video from chapter 10, section 2, and it is going to be much shorter than the last video, I can assure you of that. I just briefly want to go over two definitions. One of them is congruent circles, which I haven't drawn them in, but I think from the definition you can have a good understanding. And I'm going to flip back to the textbook to show you them. But two congruent circles are obviously congruent or exactly the same size if they each have a radius that is the same length. And remember, a radius is from the center of the circle to any point on the circle. It's just 1/2 of the diameter as well. So if we're looking at this example here, A is the center of the circle and it's drawn to point C, and there's that red line through it to show that it is the same as from this circle. B to D is the same length. So these two circles would be considered congruent. If the lengths were not the same, they're just two different circles. And the next definition is talking about congruent arcs. Now this one can become very confusing, so I have two examples to help explain this one, and then I will go back to the textbook, which you guys already have available to you, where it's a good idea to reference those examples as well. So arcs are only congruent when they have A, the same measure, or they are a part of the same circle or congruent circles. So you have to check a couple of things. So first you're checking for, do they have the same measure? Now the second thing is, are they a part of the same circle having the same measure? So in part A, we see that JK and LM are both minor arcs, and they are both 60 degrees. So right now they both are the same measure. Now I want to check to see if, are they a part of the same circle? Yes, they are both part of the same circle. So we are allowed to say that these highlighted arcs are congruent. So in part A, yes, they are congruent because they are the same measure and they are both in the same circle. Now in part B, we're looking for, are the measure of the arcs the same? So AB and CD are both measuring 90 degrees. Are they a part of the same circle? No. Are they a part of congruent circles? No. Notice this radius is 7 and the radius here is 5. So just because they're the same measure here doesn't mean I can say these arcs are congruent, because they're not a part of the same circle and they aren't a part of congruent circles. So here I have to say no, and then for those reasons I just said, because they are not a part of congruent circles, can be something like that. Oops, let's move that over here. Or not, let's just leave that. And from the textbook, they have a couple examples to further assess that. So I'm going to jump to part B to use that explanation. And that exam explanation I was just saying is given for this answer. So if I'm looking at the measure of arc RS, I know that RS is 90 degrees because the central angle is 90 degrees. And then I see TU is also 90 degrees because the central angle is 90. But they are not congruent because their arcs are not a part of congruent circles. So just because they're both measuring 90, you need a second reason to back you up. And they are not congruent because they are arcs of circles that are not congruent. Now looking at part A, we're looking at only one circle. So we're looking at that same circle section in our definition. And now we just want to check, are the two arcs the same? So we're all a part of circle B, and we see that CD is 80 degrees because of this central angle right here. And I see that EF is 80 degrees because of the central angle right there. So they are both congruent because they are part of the same circle and they have the same measure. And in part C, I'm looking at UV and YZ. UV is 95 degrees because of the central angle drawn here, and YZ is 95 degrees because of that central angle there. The next thing I need to check for is, for this one, are they a part of congruent circles? So I see that both of the radii are congruent to each other. Therefore, arcs UV and YZ are congruent because they are the same measure and because their arcs are from congruent circles. So they're, and they have congruent center angles, blah, blah, blah. So for this, for your homework, I'm going to be assigning it on this page, and you're going to also have to look at these graphs here, which is also from your textbook. It's just using your central angle, adding and subtracting stuff again. You're going to, actually, maybe I won't give those to you for homework. I'm going to give you stuff like this. You're going to have to determine if the arcs in red are congruent using these definitions that I gave right here. So good luck, and I hope you enjoy your homework.